Hey, welcome back to the show. Today we're going to be talking about two subjects that I love very much, Stoicism and Breathwork. And we'll be covering a technique, a combination of techniques, if you will, in just a minute. But first I want to talk to you. I'm going to ask you a question. What do you call someone who remembers everyone's name? You know, so you know what I'm talking about, the person that goes to the social event and they remember everybody's name. Oh, hi, John. Oh, hey, Fred, or whatever. What do you call that? Answer, not me. I forget people's names all the time, and this is why I want to thank our sponsor, MagicMind. This is our only sponsor for the day. MagicMind is an all-natural nootropic that I love. I've been taking it now for quite some time. If you're a fan of the show, you might have seen me talk about MagicMind before. This is something that helps me stay a little bit more focused, but it's not like a super stimulant like a lot of these types of things normally are. So you take this before you go to your social event, you get a lot of cool, calm energy, and you might actually remember people's names. So thank you to MagicMind for sponsoring today's show. Today we're going to be talking about Stoicism and Breathwork. I'm going to guide you through. There'll be a guided session at the end of this video. So maybe find a comfortable place. We're gonna hang out. We're gonna be comfortable together. I am having just regular water, but it's not regular water. I shouldn't say it's regular water. This is Berkey filtered water. And there is a difference. I think a lot of people don't notice the difference between different flavors of water because most people are drinking sodas. So I don't think a lot of people notice these things, but there are differences in the flavors of water. I do use the Berkey filter. I'm not sponsored by them or saying you should go out and do you use a filter? Do you filter your water? How do you do that? There's a trainer that I know who, I'm gonna send this video to her now that I'm thinking about it. Her name is Marie Bodin, or Bodine. Okay, so Marie's from Canada, so I'm not sure how they do it there. Is it, because here in the Midwest, I think we would pronounce it Bodine. We like the at the end. Is it Bodine, Marie, or is it Bodin? Anyway, Marie says that you either filter your water before you drink it, or you're gonna filter it as you pass it through your body, right? You're filtering it one way or the other. A friend of mine, Rob Linfesti, I asked him one time, if you had to pick between, and of course I put him in this situation, he hates microwaves. I don't have anything against microwaves. I know that there's arguments for and against, but I said, if you had to choose between making hot tea using filtered water through your Berkey and then microwaving it from there, or using water out of the tap and then putting it into like a kettle and boiling it, which would you do? He said, I just wouldn't drink it. I'm not quite so far as Rob, but here's to Rob, here's to Marie, here's to you. Let's talk about Stoicism today. Stoicism is a really popular philosophy. It's been made very popular by some amazing minds like Ryan Holiday. You might have read The Obstacle is the Way. It's a fantastic book. And of course, he's made his whole career on Stoicism, on how to apply the Stoic philosophy of Epictetus, of Marcus Aurelius, Seneca. The Stoics, essentially, they looked at the human condition, and it's really quite fascinating. They knew, just based off of our own personal experience, we are often quite reactive. Now, modern neuroscience looks at the brain as a regulatory organ, and my friend and mentor, Dr. Otto Music, who is just, pun intended, he's a real brain. He's a neuroscientist, and of course I always make the joke, I'm gonna pick your brain. But he always talks about how, we have this organ, it is both predictive and it's reactive. So it's predictive in the fact that we can run simulations. We can say, well, if I do this action, this might happen. Or if I do that action, this might happen. It's reactive in the way that often we don't think about simulations. We just, as soon as we feel an impulse, we do something. And it's interesting that the Stoic philosophers tried to find a balance between these two things. They said that it's also often that we just simply react without thinking about the action that we're taking. We react as a slave. Of course, this was in a time when people who had no ability to determine their own actions, and they saw this as, okay, you are a freer person than you think you are. It's just that you're being tossed about by your emotions. You're being tossed about by this reactive quality of being a human as opposed to choosing how to respond. And so the Stoics, they really focused on, okay, we're going to control how we respond. We're not going to react immediately. We're going to observe the emotions, but we're not going to be a slave to them. I think oftentimes people mistake Stoicism as something where you ignore your emotional response. People who are more in touch with their emotions tend to have a better decision-making matrix than people who are not in touch with their emotions. So it's not about blocking out your emotional response. It's by not being reactive to the emotional response, because what happens so often is if you are not connected to your emotions, and so often we look at our emotions as almost a weakness. Oh, I've become emotional, right? Or people go to the other extreme and say, I need to cry at at the drop of a hat because we need to normalize that. You know, I'm not saying that you shouldn't cry, but I think so often we take things to the extremes. And actually, I will go ahead and say, I think it's important to cry, right? It is important to cry. If you are mourning, if you are experiencing loss, it's unnatural not to have that emotional response. And so often we stifle our emotions, and that's not good. We look to others for guidance as to how we should feel and act. And you can pretend that you're not affected by this, but we all are. We're social creatures, and if everybody's freaking out, you're going to wonder, what should I be freaking out? Is there something going on? And if everyone was walking down the street crying, you might be more apt to be like, okay, maybe things aren't. I was feeling pretty good. I felt like things were going okay today. Maybe I should be down in the dumps too. To be Stoic is to be friends with your emotions, to have a positive relationship with them, to be in touch with them to the degree that you're not at the whimsy of them. Because if you're not in touch with your emotions, then as soon as you feel something, it's scary. It's foreign. We fear what we don't understand. We fear what we don't engage with on a regular basis. And you can take that to social things, you know, okay, there's a group of people I don't normally engage with, and therefore I am afraid because I'm in the presence of this group of people that I don't normally engage with, right? Which is just as wrong as being afraid of your own emotions, right? Just as full of negative consequences to you as an individual. And so this is why it's important to engage with our emotions. So to be a Stoic is not to remove yourself from emotions, but it is to say, I have a lot more agency with my emotional state. Actually, I'm a father, and I have a son who might be just like a natural Stoic. It's actually this past weekend, my wife and I, of course, he's 8 years old. So if you're an 8-year-old boy and you're not misbehaving, there's probably something wrong, right? Can you believe that when I was an 8-year-old boy, I misbehaved a lot? And I would assume, you know, if you're a person, you misbehaved a lot whenever you were growing up as well. Berkey water. But my son this weekend, we have to have punishment. You have to, if you're going to be a good parent, you have to try to develop this human being into a good adult. You want this person to be responsible. You want this person to learn cause and effect. You want this person to learn the consequences of your actions. There are consequences, first of all. And when we misbehave in certain ways, I'm not gonna go telling on my kid to you, but when we misbehave in certain ways, there are consequences. My son, being the stoic that he is, it was difficult to punish him. So I think we put him to hard labor, cleaning the house, cleaning the toilets. It's not like, okay, I don't want you to think we have gas station toilets that are just like covered in poop and just garbage. We have, reasonably clean toilets. But there is a symbolic thing where now you got to go clean the toilets, right? Oh man, it's the toilet. And so he was doing hard labor in our home, pulling weeds around the house, doing things like that. And he was singing songs, he was making jokes, he was making it into a game. He was the most stoic young man that I've ever seen. And this was partially frustrating to me as the person who is trying to enforce the punishment, as the person who is saying, okay, see, you're never going to do that bad thing again, are you? Because look how much you suffered. Well, as a true stoic, a natural stoic, I don't know how much. I would like to believe I've taught him this, but I don't want to give myself too much credit. He was choosing how he was going to respond. He wasn't doing the reactive thing. Oh, I'm not doing what I want to do. I like to play games. I like to ride my bicycle. I like to have freedom, and I can't do that. So therefore, I'm going to hate every minute. He accepted that this is what I'm going to have to do right now. This is where I am. I am not free in my actions, but I am free in how I respond to the situation. I am free in my behaviors, in my thoughts. And on the one hand, it was incredibly frustrating as the person trying to teach this kid a lesson. On the other hand, I was incredibly proud, because as long as he actually does learn these lessons, this kid is going to be someone who is not shakeable. This kid is going to be the person who can go through the times that life will throw at you. You can do everything right in life. You can make no bad decisions. You can be the most responsible person in the world. Bad things will happen, but how we respond is our choice. That is our freedom. And so while I am trying to raise my son, I have to admit that I was incredibly inspired by him this weekend. And I hope this little story inspired you. There are times whenever we can respond. There are times when we have to hold off our response. There are unconscious processes that are at play that can color the situation and make us feel as though we have to be impulsive. I am naturally more an impulsive person. There are other times when we are so paralyzed by these situations that we sometimes call analysis paralysis. So instead of being reactive, we're being predictive. We're just going through all these things that could happen, and then we never actually take action. But we do have to take some kind of action in life. We do have to eventually respond in some way. So we're going to do a breathwork session that I like to call the power couple. This is 2 techniques that I'm going to show you that when you put them together can help clear your mind, can help clear your head, and can put you into a better state so that you can take those actions, so that you can be more comfortable and more confident rather than being so reactive, which is, sadly enough, I've always been more impulsive. Or it's something that can help you become more comfortable and maybe start to silence or quiet down all of those simulations that you're running in your mind so that you can say, okay, I actually have to do something now. So we're going to do this session, and I want you to try to apply this to today or this week. When you have a solution, when you have some kind of an action that you need to take, when you are responding to a situation as opposed to reacting, let this be a way to say, okay, before I respond, I'm going to calm my nerves. I'm going to silence some of this chatter so that I can move forward with more confidence, at least knowing that I did something positive. So the session is one, definitely before you do any breathwork session, always check with your doctor to make sure you're safe doing breath work. This is one that you would not want to do near water, or if you're driving, please don't do this any time whenever you're operating some kind of machinery. Please be seated on the floor, laying down, and then just follow along. I'm going to go over to the studio and we'll get started. So meet me over there. All right, so here we are. All you need to do, and here's the thing, you can do this at the office, you can do this anytime you need it. You can find a private place. You don't need to freak people out. Whenever people start breathing heavily, sometimes people get freaked out by that. Again, you don't want to be the person in public that makes everybody else feel uncomfortable. You never know what you're going to do to their day. You're going to influence them. You want to influence people in a positive way. So find a place that's safe. I do this in a seated position. A lot of times people like to do it in a lying down position. And we're going to start with a technique that I like to call sniff, sniff, poo. Andrew Huberman calls this the physiological sigh. Whatever you want to call it. I like sniff, sniff, poo. Maybe it's because I'm a dad and I like dad jokes. You won't forget this technique because now you already know how to do it. It's 2 sniffs and an exhale through the mouth. You don't have to say poo, but it's going to look like this. The first sniff is going to be about 70% full lungs. Okay, that's about 70%. And then you're going to top it off with the second sniff, and then you're going to release it nice and slow with a out the mouth. Okay, so it's going to look like this. Okay, so we're going to do this about 10 times. All right, so it can be more than 10, it can be fewer than 10, but approximately 10 times. I would say try it at least 5 times, right? But for this video, you're going to do this with me. We'll do 10 together. Then we're going to immediately follow with the technique called the cadence of bliss. That's what I call it. It's also known as 4-7-8 breathing. It's called that because you're going to breathe in for 4 seconds, really expanding the ribs. So I can't stress enough to you on this technique how much more significant of a result you're going to get when you expand the ribs. And so you're going to hold your breath for 7 seconds. So in for 4, 7 seconds, full lungs. If for some reason that's painful, you can just skip to the next part, but try to go 7 seconds. Really expanded ribs, really full lungs. And then you're going to exhale for 8 seconds. And that is going to be a long exhale. You're really just trying to make that, if you can make it perfectly even all the way for 8 seconds, that's ideal. And this is a combination. Now, as we do this, I don't want you to just be trying to get high. I don't want you to try just to not feel. That is not Stoicism. That is not productive. You still want to feel. So what we're going to do before we practice this technique is we're going to do a full scan. So how do you feel? Where do you feel? And I don't want you to just to be looking for places where you feel pain or some kind of muscle tension. I want you to really feel what you feel. So our feelings, our emotions, there is always a physiological sensation that will accompany that. And oftentimes we're so disconnected that we don't notice it. But I want you to at least try to notice, okay? So just try to, and when we close our eyes, we're shutting off a lot of information that we normally would have to process, and we can use that as that processing power for internal awareness, or sometimes we call that interoception. So I want you to just really become aware. Just really become aware of how you feel, where you feel. You don't have to know what it all means, but take note of every sensation, every little thing that you can possibly observe. If you want to learn more about how to do this, check out my book, The Language of Breath. You can also check out all of the resources at The Language of Breath. If you go to languageofbreathcollective.com, there's all kinds of resources, link in the description there. But just for now, feel, okay? What does it feel like right now, okay? Then we're gonna do the practice, and then I want you to, as we're doing the practice, not just think about the breath. So many times people say, just think about the breath. I don't even want you, definitely think about what you're doing, but as we're doing this, feel, okay? You're listening to the voice of the unconscious. You're gonna be listening, really observing the sensations as they change as we do this technique. And then after we finish the technique, take a little bit of time to observe. So let's go ahead and start. Just start by feeling. And I'm assuming this whole time you've been observing how you feel. So we're gonna get into the technique. We're gonna do 10 sniff, sniff, poos. Then we're gonna do 4, 7, 8s. Then we're gonna come back into normal breathing. All right, let's do this. So here we go. Good job. Now we're going to get into 4, 7, 8. So we're going to breathe in, belly, expand the ribs, expand, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, relax it out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Very good. Breathe in, expand, expand, expand. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, relax it out. Experiencing the sensations. 5, 6, 7, 8. Breathe in, expand, expand, expand. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, relax it out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Last one, in, belly, ribs, chest, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now go back into normal breathing, but take this time to observe. It's not that we're necessarily trying to change everything. As the Stoics would tell us, you're not going to change the world around you. You're not going to change your situation. What we're trying to do is to help ourselves by putting ourselves in a better state, a state that can help us respond thoughtfully instead of react thoughtlessly. We're trying to put ourselves into a position where we can be the person that we want to be, as opposed to being at the whimsy of the world. As opposed to being a slave, we can be our own masters of our lives. And really, let's forget about this master-slave mentality. Let's just look at it as, I'm going to develop a better relationship within myself. The conscious and the unconscious processes that are often at the heart of human suffering. I'm going to try to build a positive relationship here because I want a better relationship with the world around me. And that requires me to be thoughtful. that requires me to be in touch with my emotions and my feelings, and to be able to have such a positive relationship with these things that I'm not scared. I'm not acting in fear. I'm acting out of a thoughtful place, a respectful place. I'm respecting myself. I'm respecting the world around me. So you can come back to this session anytime you like. Please like, subscribe, share, all those things. And come back and see me next time. We are going to be doing this more often. This is the new format that I like because I get to share more with you. So, thanks again for watching. And don't forget this. Come back to this anytime. I'll see you next time.